All right. Hey, I am here today with Riki. Riki, who knows a heck of a lot about fixing screens, as in fixing screens. It's taking the broken glass off and making that broken screen work again. He is a screen refurbisher. He has been doing this for, I don't know how long, a decade? Ever since the
not
iPhone
quite that long,
1?
about 6 years.
Only 6 years. Yeah, so Riki, I've known for, I've been fighting with Riki pretty much nonstop for at least a couple of years. But I have come to recognize him as an expert in screen refurbishing. So Riki's here to help me understand what happened to this screen. So this is an iPhone 11 Pro that I did a screen replacement on. And it didn't work out because the customer came back with a green screen. It's brighter with my microscope light. All right, so this is an iPhone 11 Pro. This is my customer's phone. And right now, it's working. But they brought it, and it went out like this. And they brought it back to me because it does this a lot. So, Riki, hopefully you can see
I can
this.
see that, yeah.
Yeah. It goes green. So
Yeah.
Let's see. So when I touch it up here, nothing, nothing, nothing. Down here. Now look at how it, over here on the right, the notch I can see on the left side, but not on the right side, and I'm still holding pressure on this. And when she brought it in, it was doing this. And I said, huh, that looks like there's a problem with the screen. and what I was interested in is, how do I tell whether or not this is a screen defect, or is it an installation defect? Did I mess this up somehow? Or did they drop it and damage it? So when I look, and let's go ahead and go under the microscope, and Riki, hopefully you can follow along here. Let me see if I can get under, and I'm looking at the corner. There's nothing really there. When I look to see, is there, the popular opinion was that they had dropped it.
How about the bottom corner, on the two bottom corners along the bottom?
All right, so let's look at the bottom corner. So I'm going to disconnect it. I'm going to pull this over here, and let me make it so that it's really crisp. So it's kind of like lifted up. And I did take out the waterproofing, and I put in a new sticker, which I then took out when I was trying to figure out what happened here. So this is the deal. Now let's look in here. So there's, this chip with a QR code. I don't know what that is. This is down at the bottom of the screen. Mm-hmm. And there's two little feet bracket.
Yeah, and that's the flex you've got. You've the flex you've got underneath that metal bracket there.
Yep. And then it goes around there to another rectangle dude.
That's the touch panel I see.
This?
Nope,
the guy here at the end?
One. Yeah. He's the touch panel I see.
So that guy gets people in trouble, huh? All right.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay. So my first question is, what happened to this screen? It looks beautiful. There's no cracks. There's nothing. All right. So what do you think happened to...
So the first time I saw your picture, the top corner, where everything was green, the top corner, I didn't look closely, and the top corner looked black. Now that is consistent with damage, removing the frame in the top corner, which I've seen many, many times. So the top notch would be completely black, and the rest of it would be green or sort of all over the place. However, yours worked absolutely fine. So when you press on the flex, which is at the bottom, the top corner shows the display. The time is still there. What is up there? The time and the battery health. That still works fine. And the rest of it is green. So I believe it's flex damage, which relates with you pressing down at the bottom. So I've got here...
So I messed it up, just to be clear. Is that right?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Oh.
I'll explain to you how it works, and then we'll go to how exactly it was damaged. So this is an iPhone 12 Pro Max screen. I'll try and I don't know if it's going to show that in focus there. Can you see that well or not?
Pretty well, yeah.
Pretty well. So you've got this is the complete display with no glass on, no touch panel on it, and at the bottom here, the gold bit, which we were looking at through your metal frame, That is the OLED flex. It's really, really delicate. That sits there. Now, here I've got the frame that goes on it. This is what goes onto the back of the screen to create a complete display to be fitted to your phone. This screen, you can see the red pull tabs that are on there in the middle. That metal area that is on the inside of it, that is double-sided, and that sticks onto the silver metal area of the back of the 12 Pro Max. So they go together like that, that's it. Around the outside of it, so there's a tiny little gap around the full outside of the screen. A good quality screen will use cold pressed glue, and it comes out chilled at about -1 degree.
Did you say cold pressed glue?
Correct. There's lots of different ways to do it, but cold pressed glue is the best way, and I would believe that the greater quality screen that you used would have had that. So a machine.
Did you say that you believe that the grade A quality screen that I used, which to be clear is an aftermarket soft, do you say OLED or OLED? That's the level.
I say OLED.
OLED.
I say OLED.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. It may be OLED. I say OLED.
Okay. OLED.
So
that's hard.
The screens are tiered into different qualities.
What's the cheap one?
Okay. The cheap one is LCD, and that is the cheapest to manufacture. But the LCD, the way that an LCD works is it has a backlight which lights up the back of the LCD panel, which makes it light up so that your eyes can see it. An OLED phone, an OLED display, a display like this, has no lights on the back to light it up. It's not the way that it works. It draws less power. For an LCD screen to work on an OLED designed phone, it needs to be taking the power from the backlight, from the logic board somewhere. Now,
so that I do know a little bit about because we fix that problem a lot. So, I've got screens here. Let's take a.
Do you see that often? Do you see boards that are damaged from LCD use, not just LCD fitting?
We've seen that a few times. Not so much anymore because I did make a video that said don't do that. But just for you guys that are interested, I think I can show. So what he's talking about is this is a 6S screen, so a traditional screen that is just the LCD, meaning it doesn't have an OLED version, just the LCD. And an LCD looks like this, where you can see the little strip of lights. There they are.
Yeah,
those are the actual light-emitting diodes. That is the backlight. And this whole piece,
is that a scrap
you can
screen?
actually.
Is that a scrap screen? Yeah, go on, pull that off.
No, this is my screen. What, do you think it's not going to work anymore? Yeah.
Pull that off, and there's still on the backlight there. So the bit that's in your right hand, if you
rip it off.
Pull that silver, rip it off, and then peel the silver bit off of the inside of that.
Okay. So this part is an old problem that we used to see, which is this is attached to the flex with a little soldered on joint. And that little soldered on joint there has the 20 volts of the backlight going through it. So if you don't put the little piece of tape on that thing, then you can close the phone up and get a problem. I'm just going to rip it off just to show. So this is.
You can take that out. Take the silver bit off of the inside of that out, and you'll see the 3D touch on that backlight.
Oh, okay. 3D touch. All right, so we got this piece. What's that? Is this a polarizer?
It's all part of. No, that's not a polarizer. The polarizer goes straight on the LCD. That's just part of the backlight.
So that comes
off, and then that silver layer there comes off as well. That is
now,
also
does this kind of hurt your eyes a little bit to see me just ripping it off with my fingers? Does it?
No, I do it enough myself. Okay. That there. So you've got the LEDs at the top, but that brownish color, that controls the Touch ID, and that controls the 3D touch. So the force touch on the phone when you use it.
Very cool. I don't think I've ever seen that part. I've just ripped off this one piece. What's this, dude?
I don't actually know. Something to do with the controller for the force touch, I would imagine. I'm not
okay,
sure.
Controller for force touch. Makes sense. All right. And then the rest of this screen here is where you see the image. So without that backlight, you can actually shine a light here, and if you plugged it in and it was working, you could see the image. So this is an LCD, and like Riki's telling us, this technology is completely gone away and has nothing to do with how your iPhone 10, 10s, 11, and 12, how those guys work, because this is different. This is an OLED screen, which does not have a backlight at all. However, the cheapest screen that you can get to put on this puppy is an LCD. So it's like a hack. So you can get an LCD to put on your OLED phone. Now, in order to power the backlight itself, this takes 20 volts. Now, how many volts are in your battery? 3 to 4 volts. So through the magic of a backlight coil and a chip, you can take battery voltage and amplify it into the amazing 20-volt boost that you need to run an actual backlight. So these phones were not designed to do that. So what Riki's saying is, yeah, but you can wave a magic wand, invent a iPhone 11 Pro screen that does indeed have a backlight. Well, where's it going to get the 20 volts? Well, you can put chips on here that boost that battery voltage that comes through the connector to the screen. And that is, I think, a really bad idea, and I'm guessing that Riki agrees with that because
I'd agree with that, yeah.
It was never designed to do that. And we have seen phones catch on fire a couple of times from installing an LCD onto an OLED. Maybe it's perfectly fine. Maybe you can get away with it because those screens definitely are the cheapest. All right, so that's the end of what I know about screens. Riki, help me understand the OLED. I know nothing about how those things work or what's the deal, and I clearly got into trouble. So what's up with these guys?
So you have two different types of OLED. Fundamentally, you have two different types. You have hard OLED, which is thicker, but not as thick as LCD screens, and it's rigid. It doesn't bend at all. And then you have soft OLED screens, which are thinner. And if you can see the one I'm holding here, I'll go on the white background, you'll be able to see it. And you can actually bend that. Yeah, so that's how, with Samsung, with their Edge phones, that's how they curve the edge of it. This technology, the OLED, soft OLED technology, is bendable. It has been for years, and it's fine to use. The hard OLED, the rigid type, is cheaper to manufacture, and that is cheaper. That is the next level up from LCD. That is not how the phone was designed. It's not the type of screen that the phone was designed to work with. However, it's a lot safer than the LCD screens. I don't believe I've seen any technicals on the hard OLED to compare it to an original screen or a soft OLED screen to tell whether it has a different type of power draw or whether data is passed through different lines or anything like that. I don't know even if that data is available.
Would you say is the original screen a soft OLED or is it its own thing?
No, it's soft OLED, but it's soft OLED manufactured to Apple standards by whoever manufactures their screens, which is higher than soft OLED that's manufactured by other factories, which I believe is what you have.
Yes. Okay. So to be clear, we've got grades of screens. LCD, we'll say don't install that. Next cheapest, hard OLED, which is an aftermarket screen. Next, soft OLED aftermarket, which is what I installed on this phone. And then next is OEM refurbished, or is there something in the middle? Because there's something in the middle that's called premium FOG. I don't know what that is.
Fog flex on glass. It's used for a lot of things nowadays. It's not really a term that means anything. A bit like OEM when you use it in China. It's not really a term that means anything nowadays because it's used so often.
110% working.
With the screens, they're broken into separate components. It's not just, you don't just, I mean, that screen there that I've got there, that has no touch panel on it. It has no frame on it. Those two components that I'm going to put on, they could be of various qualities as well. So touch panels, you can get 2 or 3 different qualities of that, and they all have different pros and cons. So even your soft OLED now, looking at your video and the one that you've got, that's got a very good quality touch panel on it because the touch panel has the touch panel IC. Remember that little rectangular guy that we looked at when you had it on the microscope?
Yes.
That controls all of the touch that goes through the screen. So when an IRP calibrates a phone after repair, it is that IC that it's talking to, that it's pairing between the logic board and it's that.
This one here is the touch panel IC, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And then what's this guy? It looks the same.
He must be something to do with the OLED driver, but I've never had to remove or.
He doesn't call attention to himself, so he doesn't get messed up.
quiet.
Okay, but this guy's unruly. All right, so this screen has that. Now, what I also have here is this is the screen that I took off of that phone originally, and this screen was this phone came to me because it had a backlight problem, right? But OLED phones don't have a backlight, and this is the screen that was on it, which it says here that this type of screen is an X06 screen, and it has a touch panel IC with a letter A on it. What does that mean?
It's hard to tell from this.
Now we're all on the same page. All right, so under the microscope, let's compare these touch panel ICs. This one here is on the aftermarket X06.
I see as well. Can you see just below it?
A couple of dudes.
Yep.
All right, this one here is the original screen that I bought way back when. This is for an 11 Pro that I've been using and still use as my data recovery test screen. So this would have been like one of the first ones that came out. And here's, this does have underfill, and that's the touch panel IC there. So I don't know, is that good?
Yeah, that's you can see that hasn't got the couple of little dudes at the bottom. That looks like that touch panel. What they do is they on the aftermarket panels, they take a rectangular shaped, similar looking IC, and they literally glue it onto the flex, and it has no actual function at all other than to try and fool you into thinking that it works when it doesn't.
You mean on this one that's a fake chip?
It could be. I would need to try and remove it to see if that was
well,
correct.
let's do that right now. We'll remove this bad boy. Let's crank this sucker off. I would be very interested to know if it's a fake chip or not. Let's take it off. I mean, you can see what this purpose of this screen right now. Tech art. So we like to get the high schoolers to come over and like make stuff. I mean, there's no value in an aftermarket screen that doesn't work, right?
No.
All right, there you go.
Well, so there you go. It's absolutely nothing like an original chip, but it's a chip.
What does the original chip look like? Is it a BGA chip with little balls?
Yeah, I'll show you. We get the touch panel that we get has we get it with the IC removed. We get it. It's no IC TP, so it has. I don't know if that's gonna.
Oh, okay. Hold on. We got to change cameras.
Can you see the balls?
I can see the chip, and I can see the flex.
Well, that's the flex. In there, I don't know if it's going to show it.
So there's balls under that chip.
There's no chip there. The chip is removed. It's flat. There is no chip on it. When you remove the original IC, it's just all balls. It's all balls on it. It's throughout the chip. It's not just on the edges like that. So that chip has been designed for that screen. What that chip's function is and what it does. I have no idea. Is magic.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let's look at another screen here while we're doing this. I like this sort of how can end users tell?
That chip is important. That chip is important. We can come back to that in a minute, but that chip is important.
All right, let's look at my last other couple of screens here. So let me Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the one. All right, so this is the screen that I installed. So this is the soft OLED 11 Pro, and it has underfill and no dudes, and that's what the touch panel IC looks like. And then the only other screen I have here is an OEM original 11 Pro Max, and I think this is the only OEM one that I have. So I think the soft OLED one that I installed and this actual OEM look really similar, right?
Yeah.
All right, so what can you tell us about this chip?
That chip, I can tell you. So just while you've got both of those on the camera,
yep.
If you look at the OLED, so where the touch panel IC is, on that 11 Pro screen, if you go to the left, can you see the green of the OLED flex?
Yes.
On the 11 Pro. Yeah, and then look at the 11 Pro Max. You see like it's a brownie color?
A what? Brown color?
Yeah, slightly different color.
Yeah. So you're talking about right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is the OEM Pro Max, brown. And if I look at the soft aftermarket soft OLED green. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would indicate that the actual OLED panel there is obviously aftermarket. Yeah, that just under where that metal plate is there, I believe.
So what do you think happened to my 11 Pro?
I think so when the frame gets to, you get the screen with the glass on, and when you adhere the frame, the cold press glue that you put around the edge of the frame, I mean, I wish I had a better camera to show you, but you've got like a couple of millimeters to play with, and when the screen gets put to the frame, the bead of glue that the machine has applied around the outside, that gets squished, it gets expanded, so the glue moves slightly. After that gets put in there, it then gets put in a heat clamp, which cures the glue and it makes it hard so the frame doesn't come off again. If any of that glue, as it squishes down at the bottom, goes in towards the flex, then it can create like a weak spot in the flex. So it will take just a minimum amount of flex or a minimum amount of pressure, and it may just be in the pocket, or it may just be putting the phone on your desk or dropping it from not high at all. It can be the slightest little thing. It may even be just from normal use. It can just cause the OLED flex is so delicate, it can just cause too much pressure on it, and then you can get issues like the issue that you're getting. And when you're applying pressure to it, it's getting it just to the point where it's going green, and then when you're releasing the pressure, it's going back to normal again. So it looks like that flex down at the bottom is faulty.
Is it something that I did, or is it glue? Like, can we say, like,
without removing the frame and getting deep, and even if you did that, you may not be able to see the damage on the OLED flex itself. It may be just a big old waste of time. But it could be a defect. I mean, if it's failed through normal use and hasn't been dropped, or there's no evidence of accidental damage, there's an argument that it could be covered under warranty anyway. But what we're talking about with panels like this is with the soft OLED panels, we're talking about expensive panels. Right. And I mean, for suppliers to be eating the cost of those, I don't think that would be sustainable without having to raise their prices. But again, for repair shops to having to eat these as well is not sustainable. But
right. Are there any installation tips that you can tell us from what you know about the biology of these things? Where should we be careful of? What do you what about removing the waterproofing? What kind of stuff have you seen?
The old waterproofing, remove all of the black adhesive, clean it with isopropyl and a Q-tip so that it's nice and smooth. Anything that is slightly raised will be raised on the new frame when you put the new screen in. Always use a new display seal, because the display seal doesn't just act as a water resistant seal, or tries to anyway. It acts as sort of a cushion to the display going into the frame. So every time that it's getting knocks and jolts and that, it's just acting to take a little bit of the impact away from the screen going into the frame. So it's not much, but it's just a little bit. So always use a display seal. And when you close it from the top to the bottom, so that you get the top bracket nice and aligned, and close it into the bottom to get the bottom in last. If you've done any other repairs on the inside, the charge port or anything to do with the board, make sure that everything on the inside is nice and flat how it should be, so that you're not pushing the screen down on something inside that's putting pressure on it, which can then cause an issue like this as well.
So what if you were doing something like in practice? You close up, you do a screen replacement, and then you're doing testing, and camera doesn't work, so you open it back up and you plug that camera in. Now it's working. Would you take that seal off again and put another one on, or is that sort of like, you just, you can open it up, close it, you didn't use it, it's fine? What do you think about that?
100%. You disconnect everything, you remove all the brackets, you do it all properly, and you remove the seal, you clean it, you put a new seal on, and then you close it up again properly. You want that seal around the edge of the screen, you want that to be completely uniform throughout, because if there's any raised bits from old adhesive or from any stray glass, or it just hasn't been cleaned properly, that's going to be a weak spot on the screen anywhere on the frame. And the worst place to have it would be at the bottom where the flex is, because that flex doesn't need much pressure at all to, even on the original screens, to go in a similar way to the way you've seen with yours.
All right, so fantastic. All right, and so what would you recommend if somebody was coming into a retail shop, they've got an 11 Pro, and they're saying, I want to replace the screen, and the guy down the street quoted me $100. Can you beat his price? Now we see that just for me to buy the LCD is $67 US. for me to buy the hard OLED, which is the one that breaks if you look at it. That is, I wrote it down. Yeah, that's about $67-ish. For me to buy the one that I did buy, so I went with the soft OLED because I thought, oh, the hard ones break, so the soft ones are sturdy. No, they're not. These ones, you know,
they're sturdy. They are still sturdy. They're still sturdy. They're just not ideal.
Yeah, one piece of snot down here at the bottom when you snap that in, and it's not going to work. These aren't sturdy. These are less breakable than the ones that you can't even look at. This thing costs $100, and then if you kind of go up the road, the refurbished ones are $210, $205, something like that. And then the FOG is in the middle, $158. So I don't really know what that one is. Which that's a huge range. So I'm going to have to charge $250 for a screen replacement if I'm using the refurbished ones. But if I'm using the LCD, you know, I could get it done for less than $100. What do you tell people? How do you advise them? What's the right repair for them?
So for end customers, it's a hard one. For me as a repairer, I think that if I was just to offer the high end, it would be less of my time that would be wasted, and I'd be guaranteeing a better service, because any time that I'm not spending fitting LCD or hard OLED or any of the issues that come along with it, I can then spend that time on other avenues of my business. For customers, you get different areas. You get some areas which are saturated with repair shops. There's lots of competition. Some people like to cater to all different customers, and they like to give an explanation of each display type and what the pros and cons are for each one. As good as that is, and you can say, oh, it looks different, it can break easier, things like, what I'd like to see is for repairers and repair shops to be able to say, they'd be able to give explanations on the technical differences between each screen and how they differ to OEM screens, if that's the type of screen that they want to offer to their customers. But for me personally, my advice would be, don't try and cater to the people that only want to spend $100 on the screen repair. Let them go to the person down the road, and then that gives you more time yourself to focus on whatever the hell you want to do.
So it sounds like the LCDs are using the design in a way that was clearly never intended. So let's say, no, that's always bad. And then the hard LEDs, they break. The soft
they break
LEDs,
because they're thicker, and the phone is designed to have a soft OLED thin screen put in it. So when you're putting a thicker screen into the same space or trying to put it into the same space as a thin screen, and it doesn't like bending or any pressure, it's going to break. So yeah, the hard OLED breaks very easily. Yep.
And then the soft OLED is probably the best aftermarket choice. And there is some advantage to aftermarket in that you're not going to have any of these touch panel IC incompatibility issues. The bad part is that it's not as good as the OEM screen. And so therefore, if you had it for 2 years without, and then it survived thousands of drops until it didn't, this aftermarket screen, I don't think it's just not going to be that durable. So you might, you know, it's quite fragile, quite fragile. I'm learning. Yeah, they're just not made to those same specifications, but they are, you know, a lot more affordable than the refurbished OEM is the, you know, the best solution to make it similar to the way that it was the entire time you've owned it up until now.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get those pesky touch panel issues, right? The chip issues, the IC issues. All right. Anything else that people should know about installing these screens or choosing them for their customers?
Just seek information on the aftermarket panels, so that if you don't have everything that a customer may ask you to hand, ask your supplier for it, because your supplier should be able to give it to you. And other than that, just steer clear of the LCDs. The phones weren't designed for them, and steer clear of the hard OLEDs if you can.
Steer clear of the hard. So if you're an end user, ask, what screen are you putting in here? And you can ask them, I want a OEM refurbished screen. That's as close as you're going to get to Apple outside of the Apple store. If you want a new OEM screen, you're going to have to go to the Apple store or to an Apple authorized repair provider, and that's going to be the most expensive option. If you want a affordable, reasonable, medium option, ask for the soft OLED aftermarket screens if you're looking to save some money, and then really know that the hard OLED and the LCDs are cheap and are probably going to have a really short life for you. So unless you're planning to get rid of that phone in the next month or two, then those might not be the best option for you. So those are all of your options, and all of us are free to prioritize, in our own mind, price versus quality and value, and make those decisions. I totally believe in transparency, and I love, Riki, that you were willing to talk to me and help us to understand a little bit. And I'd really like to do this again. This was a little off the cuff, just, it's hard with all this technology, but I definitely learned some things, and I'd like to talk more later. If you have a question for Riki, let us know in the comments, and what other things would you like to know about the biology of these screens. I think Riki is an amazing resource, and I'm so happy that he was willing to talk to us, and hopefully we'll do it again. All right, awesome. Thanks, Riki.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.